Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon with Deirdre Brennan. It's going to be on defining digital strategy. We have a very large group with us today, so to be fair to everyone, I'm going to wait a few moments to allow the participant numbers catch up with the material. So it's lovely to have such a large group, and this is the first of a number of webinars in this area, which is so pertinent at this moment. So with that, I'm going to quickly introduce you to another person. I have with us Joanna Salmons, and Joanna is my colleague who's just started with us a couple of months ago. Some of you may have met her through Design Ireland work on the website, and Joanna is our new digital manager. So Joanna's with me today, and I also have Deirdre Brennan, who's going to be presenting to you today. So with that, I'm not going to steal any more of the time. I'm just going to say that if anybody has questions as we go along for clarification, they'll be dealt with. But in the main, questions will be dealt with at the end. But please put them in the chat, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Deirdre.
Great, thanks very much, Emer. Welcome everybody to this afternoon's webinar. As Emer said, my name is Deirdre, and we've had a family business for 18 years providing digital solutions. But just by way of introduction to myself, I have a background in IT, and I went back for my sins and upskilled in digital marketing strategy. So I got a master's in digital marketing strategy. I have experience in e-commerce, and I provide training and mentoring to the local enterprise across a number of counties. Being Kilkenny-based business, we have an awful lot of clients who are the creative sector. So I've had the pleasure of working with people over the years in that context, both product development, branding, design, print, production, etc. So today we're going to cover and hopefully demystify some of the concepts related to defining your digital strategy. So without further ado, what we'll cover today will include the concepts themselves, factors that impact the success of your e-commerce, pillars of communication for e-commerce, some of the research that you will need to conduct as you step into that space, situational analysis, target market research, and researching your competitor analysis. What product details you should include in an e-commerce space, and setting your goals. And then I'll finish up with some tips and tools that you might find useful. So before we kick off, it's very hard to actually comprehend how far or how vastly the digital landscape has changed in such a short period of time. So what I'd like to do is to take a step back, take a look back to see exactly how far we've come. Really, the main disruptor for change in this area would have been the appearance of the iPhone back in 2007. So the iPhone came on board, and really before then we didn't have access to the internet whole scale. So it put it in our hands and in our pocket, and that changed the face of everything. It changed media, journalism, entertainment, and of course e-commerce and advertising. So just to put it in context, I'm going to start with a series of images. This picture here is actually back in 2005, and it's a photo of Vatican Square. And you can see there's very little by way of technology visible in the image. These are famous, well-known images by the Associated Press. So you may have come across them before, but there's very little present at that stage. And then if you fast forward 8 years later, so this is same space, Vatican Square, for Pope Francis or whoever, and you can see that there is technology present and visible in everybody's hand. And not only do they have it, but they're actually viewing their reality through the medium of that screen. And then if you jump ahead 2 years after that, and potentially particularly relevant today, you can see Hillary on the campaign trail. Now this is slightly contrived in that she did offer the opportunity for people to take a selfie, and her photographer happened to catch the moment. But it does indicate a further progression in our interaction with digital and digital tools. So we no longer view through our screen, but we also want to be in on the action. And then if we look at today, this potentially may be a lot of what your reality is looking like these days. So with the evolution and advances that we've made, you very often hear staggering statistics recited, like 90% of the world's data was produced in the last 2 years. So everything that happened before then equates to 10%. More people own a mobile phone than own a toothbrush globally. And the third one I heard just recently was we spend collectively 1 million years online every day. Now, those things, I don't know how verifiable they are, but I would imagine they're more true than untrue. But that being said, it takes us to a very, very busy digital space. And these graphics have been generated every year. It's basically every 60 seconds what's happening online. So if we take a closer look just on some of the highlights, our first stat there is you've got 1.1 million being spent online every 60 seconds, 4.7 million video views on YouTube, 4.1 million searches. Excuse me. 4.1 million search queries in Google. You've 1.3 million people logging on to Facebook, nearly 700,000 scrolls on Instagram, almost 200,000 tweets every 60 seconds online. 59 million messages are sent between Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. TikTok didn't actually feature in 2019, and you can compare those figures in brackets to the current metrics, but every 60 seconds this year, TikTok has 1,400 app downloads. And then the last point there is your smart speakers, so smart devices in the home. So 305 of those ship every 60 seconds online. So all of that to say, it's a very busy space, and it can be very daunting when you first look to approach that space. So it leads us to the question of the ages. Where should we begin our journey, and how exactly, or what can we do to stand out from the crowd, or to stand out in all of that noise? So before we deep dive, I want to offer you something by way of encouragement. And this was a recent tweet by Simon Sinek, who's a well-known motivational speaker. And he's a very famous keynote speech on marketing from the why. And if you're not familiar with it, I would recommend you take a look. It's on YouTube. But he said, it doesn't matter when we start. It doesn't matter where we start. All that matters is we start. And it's great. So by way of encouragement, everybody has been at the stage of the journey that you're on. But I will add a little extra wisdom that we all gained from our grandmothers, which is a good start is half of the work. So that being said, the most effective way that we can approach or begin a start, especially when we're time or resource poor, is to approach our strategy approach our digital strategy strategically, so in a purposeful way. And generally, when I talk about strategy, people either get overwhelmed, disengage, or you can see them kind of glaze over. So what I thought I'd do was put the concepts in everyday terms that hopefully will demystify a little bit of the theory for you, and also be memorable so that you can remember what the concepts are. So as we start any journey, the first thing that we will do, a journey is you're covering distance from point A to point B. So the first thing that you start with is going to be your starting point and your destination. You put those two pieces of information into any route planner, and you will be presented with a number of potential routes along your journey. So basically, your starting point is where you are currently. What resources do you have? What's your situation? Your destination is your goal, where you want to get to over time, and how you cover that distance is going to be your strategy. But before you set off on any journey, before you even sit into your car, there are certain things that you're going to do before you set out, and that will be review your resources. So for any road trip, it will be things like, how much fuel have you got in the tank? How much reserves have you got? If you need to refuel, at what point along the journey are you going to refuel? And you may choose a strategy based on resources that you have to hand. Other things that you might look at will be your tire pressure, or the state of your engine, your oil level, your coolant, etc. So how roadworthy is your vehicle? And is it capable of reaching the destination. And really, you wouldn't ever set into a car if you knew it wasn't going to make it to the destination. But you might need to pit stop or stop off in certain places, and that will determine what strategy or route that you will take from point A to point B. Okay. Lastly then is, will you stop for lunch? So anything that you have to take on as a resource may mean a pit stop, and you will plan that before you set out on your journey. It's an imperfect metaphor, but I think you'll get the concepts that I'm trying to highlight. Other things that you might see on any journey on a route planner as you set out will be your milestones. And generally speaking, on a trip, your milestones will indicate the progress that you're making towards your destination. So it's an opportunity to assess how effective your journey has been so far in reaching your goal. Okay. Next, you may see the option for a toll on your journey. So a toll ultimately is a small payment that you will make that will speed your progress towards your destination. And you can think of your digital advertising as a toll. Okay. And then lastly, for a route planner, what you might see will be your congestion on the route. So traffic hotspots that you might encounter, and generally they'll give you the delay that will impact your journey. And you can think of traffic as competitors that are on the market that are using the same channels as you are, and their activity or presence may impact your progress towards reaching your destination. So those are, in general terms, at a very high level, the concepts that you need to think about when we discuss developing digital strategy. So your starting point, your situation, your resources, everything you have to hand. Your destination is your goals or objectives that you hope to achieve. And for e-commerce, it's going to be healthy e-commerce sales and activity. Your various routes might be the various possible strategies that you have available to you, and your milestones then are your opportunities to assess your progress. Your tolls could equate to your advertising, your traffic congestion is your competition, and then the resources that you have available might include your budgets, your skill set, your tools, potential staff. It could even be events like product releases or trade shows, etc., or fairs, anything that you'll take on resources where you can top up your budgets and your revenue, etc. Or it could even be picking up an additional passenger, whereby you might take on board extra skill sets at various points along the way. So hot on the heels of my encouragement from Simon Sinek, the next piece of information, which is maybe not such good news, but developing your strategy is hard work. There are very little by way of magic bullets or magic solutions. Overnight successes are the exception rather than the rule, and when you investigate them, you'll actually see there was quite a lot that led to that overnight success. And a really nice quote to describe this is by Warren Buffett, and I like it because it's true and it's funny. But he said, no matter how great your talent or efforts, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. So building e-commerce business is hard work. Overnight successes are very rare, if ever possible. From research and reports done by the government as regards trading online, people would return maybe a 20% over a 2-year lifespan increase in sales. Now it's significant, 20% is still great, but it's over time. So you have to put in continuous effort to build your strategy and drive your market. And a typical metric for e-commerce would be 2% conversion, which would mean that 2 people out of every 100 who visit your website will make a purchase or make an inquiry that will lead to a sale. So there's hard work involved. However, understanding the factors that impact successful e-commerce will help you devise useful or more successful strategy. So the sales funnel, this graphic is a very simplified version, and anybody who has any experience in marketing probably recognize the concept, but the sales funnel describes the activity that you might conduct as you drive traffic to your website and try to increase your conversion. So the top level will be raising awareness that your brand exists, that you supply the products that you do. So raising awareness might happen in a number of ways. You've got organic search, you've got paid search where you pay for advertising, you might have email databases or a list of customers that you might communicate directly with. You have direct messaging, text messages, WhatsApps, your Facebook Messenger, etc. You have your social media channels, and you have your PR. So all of those activities happen in the upper level of this funnel. And then the idea would be that you raise awareness, drive people to consideration. So they consider your products, and they might view your website, explore all of the details there, and then they move from consideration to purchase. So they move through the funnel. So you'll have to put in significant activity and effort into raising awareness and consideration, and then hopefully driving your customers through to purchase. So some of the main factors, and it isn't an exhaustive list, that impact e-commerce performance include your visibility. Number one, how easy are you to find? And you can address this needs through a number of ways. So your search engine optimization, how visible are you on Google? What can you do to improve that? That can be done on site through your e-commerce website, or it can be done continuously over time. So in the build, the structure of your website, but also the activity like blogging, etc. And also offsite, like chasing backlinks and customers. The next is your search engine marketing. So you can pay for search results or advertising in that space. And then the obvious step then will be your communication strategy, be it email, messaging, or your social media. You will be constantly driving awareness and reminding your customers or your audience that you exist. The next major factor to impact will be your usability. So design, user experience, ease of navigation, and error recovery. Now, for the purposes of this webinar, we'll be focusing on point number one, but we will be addressing these other items in more depth in upcoming webinars in the future, so keep an eye out for those. Site speed, how quickly your site loads on mobile, and basically the ideal here would be 3 seconds on a 3G network. It does need to be mobile optimized, so you need to balance beautiful product images with optimization for speed and load on your mobile device. And you know yourselves, if you're on a website and you're navigating and it's taken too long or it's too hard to navigate, you just lose interest and you exit. And lastly then would be your security. So your security certificate, your SSL, secure sockets layer, and actually building trustworthiness on your website. And that can be done through your branding, the usability. So it feeds into a lot of the existing things that we've outlined. So your grammar, your spelling, your tone of voice, everything that you do on site serves to build trust for your audience, so they know that you're trustworthy and they're happy to go ahead and make that purchase when the time comes. So those are the concepts that significantly impact your e-commerce success. But when we talk about point number one and developing our strategy to raise awareness and visibility, what we need to think about as we communicate with our customers is meaningfully communicating. So it's not just selling your wares, you want to start genuine conversations with people. And the pillars of your strategy for communication will be creating content of value for your customers. So things that your audience will engage with. And again, think of that sales funnel. You're raising awareness, and then as they engage, hopefully you're building your consideration, and that will lead on to purchase. The next thing that you're going to be doing is driving your brand awareness. You're reminding your customers that you exist and you offer the services that you do. The third point then is to invite engagement. So you invite your audience to engage using call to actions, and generally these will vary depending on the piece of content that you share, but it can be click through to our website for more details. You know, we've a new launch, click on the link below. It could be additional followers on your social media, ask people to share content, traffic through to your website. Ultimately, queries and sales would be the goal, like the gold goal to drive towards. You know, that's ultimately your destination. That's what you're looking to drive more than anything else. So as we sit and think about strategy, you want to assess your own details and information that you have. So define your brand. Number one, think carefully about who you are as a brand, why you do what you do. So it's more than just your logo and your color scheme. Some people call it brand essence, but it's the substance of who you are and why you do what you do. So it can be your aesthetics, your visual, the text that you use, tone of voice, the substance of who you are, and communicate why you do what you do. And once you define your brand clearly, that becomes a foundation for all of your communication. You want to assess the resources that you have to hand. So what time have you got to dedicate to this? What budget do you have? And generally they're interrelated. Have you got the skills? And if not, do you need to upskill? And what tools have you got to hand? The tools could be hardware like tripod camera. They could be software based, and I'll review some apps that you might find useful at the end of the webinar. The next question to ask yourself would be, where is the best place for you to spend your valuable time? So you need to assess for yourself. Should you produce your products? Is your time better spent there, or and outsource your digital marketing, your communication to someone else, or do you need to manage both of them yourself? So if you're a smaller operation, you probably need to manage both, and but that's a question that you'll need to figure out for yourself, and then you'll devise your strategy based on that answer. What digital channels have you currently established, and how are they performing? Are these channels the right fit for you, and more importantly, your target market? So who's your audience, where are they, and how can you get to them? I would say go for quality over quantity here. So if the standout channel would be Instagram because it's so visual, if you want to focus your time there, that's great. I would prefer to read 3 posts a week that are highly engaging and valuable than 15 that are kind of noisy that I'm just willing to scroll past. So it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Start practically and sustainably. Stretch yourself slightly, but it doesn't have to be crazy busy or complicated. It does need to be valuable. So offering content of value is where you need to spend a lot of your time. Okay, how will you know what's working? So you need to track and measure. So if we talk about standing out or starting out on our journey, we need to know where we're setting out from. So you'll need the metrics on your current follows, your website traffic, the engagement statistics, maybe on the content that you're sharing. And then as you implement your strategy over time, you can review your success. So how have things improved? How is my activity impacting ultimately sales and inquiries, but also website traffic, brand engagement, awareness, etc. So you need to take stock. If you don't have Google Analytics installed on your website, you need to do it as soon as you get it set up, and you can start measuring from the beginning. You can track your progress. Even if you've no intention of looking at those stats yet, they will be useful to you at a later date, and you can review and assess how successful certain campaigns that you've been running have been. Set aside time and create content every week. Now I find if I sit down for 3 hours, I'll be focused and I can dedicate time to generate content. Think about, be mindful as you do your activity every week and conscious to capture content that will be useful for your social as you go about your weekly experiences, and then sit down once a week. Use a scheduling tool if you're communicating on social media, and schedule content. So you have gathered it throughout your week. You can sit down and be strategic then about posting it. And then the following week, you have content that's scheduled to go out. Make sure to keep an eye and engage and comment if people engage with it. But it frees your mind up to be a little more spontaneous and creative. as creators, I'm sure you all know that when you try to force inspiration, it rarely comes, but my ideas come to me as I drive my car or chop my vegetables or whatever it might be. So keep a notebook and pen to hand, or an open note on your phone, and make sure to jot down and record ideas. And then when you sit down to develop your content, you have ideas and imagery, etc., from your week, and you can schedule that content out. But it's going to be an invaluable tool for you to schedule content, and it'll give you more output for your time that you invest. So our next point then will be assessing your target markets. So who are your existing, who is your audience? If you don't know, mine your own information. So have a look at your current customers. What motivates them? What are their reasons for engaging with your brand? Is it for gifts? Do they support Irish? Are they interested in beautiful design? So assess what drives your current markets, and do research in markets online, etc. as well. So whatever means possible, research and define your targets as carefully as you can. And what insights can you gain then from your current customers? What insights can you gain from their motivations that will help you to define content and share it with a wider audience? So gain what insights you can from your existing knowledge on your customer base. Where are your audience online, and what can you offer them in that space? So think about type of content that might be engaging for them. And creative processes is lovely because it's visually beautiful, and you can talk about inspiration, you can talk about product journeys. Generally speaking, there's like an 80-20 golden rule that they apply, whereby you sell 20% of the time, but you should be offering content of value 80% of the time. But you can detail different places that you might get your inspiration, again, product journeys, etc. Build anticipation, and always include your call to action. Click through to the website to find more details, etc. The next major pillar in your research will include your competitor analysis. So who are the competitors in the space? Or if it's not competitors, if that's too stark a thing to explore, actually identify some brands that you admire, or whose content you resonate with, and actually have a look and see what they do. So where are they online, and how long have they been there? So if you look at competitors, you might see hundreds of thousands of followers, but if you see that they've been in that space for 10 years plus, then they've spent significant time and effort building to that point. But it'll give you an awareness, but also have a look at their content. What kind of content do they share? How engaging is that? What kind of content is receiving lots of engagement? So a like, a share, comments, etc. And actually try to identify why. What do you think might be driving engagement? And again, that will give you insight for your own content strategy. Okay, do they do plain graphics? Do they do carousels? Do they do video or audio? So have a look at the type of content they provide to, and again, you can plan accordingly. Can you beat them at what they're doing, or should you try something else? So definitely assess or review the market and see exactly what's happening, and it will inform you as you try to develop your own strategy. And again, like I said, what kind of engagement does their content get, and that can inform what you do. Okay, so when we think about your e-commerce, your communication strategy is driving awareness and consideration. But when it comes to purchase, you want to be very careful that when somebody gets to your website, you have given them all of the information that they need in order to click the button and make a sale. So the things that you need to include for your product details will be high quality product imagery, okay, and at least 3 photos that you should include there, and they should be professional. They should be consistent in style and tone, etc. Include all of the relevant customer details, okay, so anything that they might need, any frequently asked questions that you're often asked, so materials, volume, size, even include little photos of details on on your carousel, your product imagery. So anything that they might need to have a closer look at, make sure to include that, but the specifics of the product should be detailed and full, okay? Answer your FAQs that you would get even through queries. So if it's 12:30 in the nighttime and they're looking to complete the sale, they have all of the information that they need to hand to click that button. Definitely consider 360 videos, just a little 360 spin of the product. Very worthwhile engaging or investing in something like that, but very useful and helpful to help your customers complete the sale. And include your policies that you have for e-commerce, so returns policy, etc. It should be in the footer of your website anyway, but make sure you make it easily accessible in your products listing as well. Okay, so that's everything you need to think about from a product detail point of view. Next, we have setting the goals. Okay, so what is it that you want? You want obviously to increase sales. That's ultimately why we're all here. But from memory with the sales funnel, 2/3 of that, and it's an oversimplified graphic, but 2/3 of that include activity that happens that you need to drive purchase. So there are lots of different things that will feed into filling your goals that aren't just inquiries and sales, okay? Where do you want to be in 12 months' time? And be specific about that. So you take measurement of where you currently are, and in 12 months' time, I would like to increase my sales by 20%. So that's a metric that you can look at and review in 12 months' time, and then your activity will feed in to that goal, okay? And you will review, take advantage of your milestones along the way, review exactly what you're doing, what kind of outcome it's having on the things that you're keeping an eye on. So your follows, your engagement, your traffic through to your websites, your clicks, your queries, and your sales, okay? So set your goal for 12 months' time. You're increasing your sales by a measurable amount, and then you can assess it as you travel along that journey. What will your success look like? So we're raising awareness, we're raising consideration, and then we're actually increasing our sales hopefully as well. So follows on your social media channels will be something that you will keep an eye on. Engagement with the content that you're sharing there. So things like not your reach, so the things that people actually interact with and engage with on your social. So likes, comments, shares, click-throughs, when you provide links, etc. So anything that's engagement where a customer or an audience member has had to take an action for the content, okay? Queries, again, you're assessing your phone calls, your emails, etc., and any messages that you get. And then ultimately that will lead to sales. So for each of these points, what you want to do is, ultimately, I want to increase my sales by 10% over 12 months. Okay, next I want to grow my brand awareness, and the ways that I can measure that will be increase in follows on my social media, increases to engagement on the content that I'm sharing. And the beauty about digital is that you have information to hand that you can use that will help you take action. So if you're sharing content and you see that it has a high level of engagement, potentially that content is something you want to put money behind with advertising, so that you know you can reach a wider audience with content that already is working for you. So keep an eye on your engagements, and then you can make a choice that's from an informed space on any advertising that you'd like to apply. Your traffic then, if you have your Google Analytics at the moment, it'll give your traffic results, and then in 12 months' time, you can actually compare month on month or year on year how your traffic has been impacted. And when you do certain campaigns, whether that's by email, with advertising, a messaging campaign on your social, you can see how those campaigns have measured or impacted your traffic over the 12 months, and you'll know basically if what you're doing is working or not. Okay. So just to kind of round up, tips when developing strategy. Always go for quality over quantity. So focus on what's sustainable for you, figure out, research, gain insight by whatever means possible into developing content of value for your customers that they will find engaging. Yes, you can sub in your inquiries to sale or your promotions, but for the most part, you want to be generating content that people can engage with or will engage with, and then invite them to take your action through on your website. Okay. All action that you take will be feeding into reaching your goal or destination. So ultimately, it'll be driving sales, but increasing traffic to the website, driving brand awareness, etc. So every part of your strategy will feed into that ultimate goal. Just as on the journey for the route planner, everything that you take, every decision you make will be to speed you reaching your destination, or at least increase the ease of that journey. Okay. Make sure your e-commerce space is as user-friendly as it can be. And again, we're going to go into this point in specific detail in an upcoming webinar, but the speed of which it loads, the navigation, the user experience, the design, how quickly can I find the product that I'm looking for, get it into the cart and check out. So make that as user-friendly as you know how. Include everything that your audience needs to make a purchase on your website. So any product details that are scant or don't include the details that people might ask if they were in your shop. Maybe work on filling out those descriptions, including your 3 images, giving the customer all of the details that they might need for an impulse buy. Definitely use a scheduling tool to help you manage your social content. You'll get more investment for the time that you spend, and it'll actually take a lot of pressure off you. And lastly then, just as regards free tools, there are a lot of tools and apps, etc., that are available in the space. But for graphics, you may be aware of these, but there's a couple of websites, Pixabay and Upsplash, really high quality imagery, photography, video, etc. It's great for gleaning ideas, but there's copyright-free imagery there that you can get for free. So definitely worth investigating those spaces if you're not aware of them. The next tool there is actually a graphics app called Adobe Spark Post. A really great app. I know it's kind of an equivalent to Canva, so if you're already aware of Canva as a graphics generator, but I've used this for maybe 3 or 4 years. Really lovely. It's a mobile app, but also a web-based app, and you can do branding, you can do images for your website, you can do print production, etc. But really useful. It is a premium based. You can sign up. There's an awful lot that they give you for free, but you can sign up and pay for premium templates, etc. Or you can make your own from scratch. If you have your own logo in what's called a portable network graphic, a PNG, you can upload that and brand all of your imagery, which is a really good idea for your social. But it's a lovely app to use, definitely worth exploring if you haven't come across it already. You can sign up, you need an Adobe sign-in, or you can sign up with your Facebook account or your Google account, but definitely worth looking into. For video production, if you're doing video or creating video at all, it's a really, again, both mobile app and web-based app called Capwing. Really good for video editing. You can add subtitling, etc. if you need to. I would recommend subtitling for anything that you're uploading on social media. I think, you know, a massive percentage, maybe 80% of people view all content on mute. So it's really important for any video content that you upload that you include the subtitles there. And then I also use an app called Headliner. Now both of these I actually use in the web app, just because I'm sitting at my laptop and they're easier to use that way. But Headliner will give you 10 minutes, I think, audio transcribed exports a month. So that's the free version. So that if you were doing 30-second little video clips for your social media, that's 20 clips a month. And then you can opt in for a subscription basis as well. You do need to be careful to proofread their auto transcripts, because they're not great with the subtitling for the Irish accent, but you can edit all of those and then export the video. You can include your branding. So very, very useful apps, and both of them also have the free plan that you can gain quite a lot from. For strategy, then I use Hootsuite for scheduling content, and on the basic package that's free with Hootsuite, you can link 3 social channels to it, and you can schedule up to 30 posts for free. So you can sit down and schedule content, if you like, over a 2-week period. And that communication will be going out. And as I said, it just frees up your head then to be a little more spontaneous or creative in the everyday, knowing that you've your plan, the content is going out and you're not under pressure. So really, really useful app. Again, that's online. It's a web app as well as a mobile app, but I do find it easier on the web, but really, really useful. And then lastly, just the Google Suite. So Google have a huge amount of free tools that you should use, particularly in Think with Google. You've got site speed tests where you can check the speed of your website, both on desktop and on mobile. They have Google Trends where you can see actually what's been trending recently. And actually, interestingly enough, buy local, buy Irish, shop local, those search queries have been trending up by maybe 300 to 500%. But you can get great insight into actually what are people searching for, what are they asking for, and that could feed into your strategy. You've also things like Google Analytics, whereby you can assess your website traffic, how many people are visiting, how many are repeat customers or not, who's visiting on mobile, are they coming from social media. So really, really useful to implement that on your website. But also actually with Google Academy, you can go through training courses where they'll introduce you to the topics and concepts around both analytics and AdWords, and you can get certified if you need to, but very, very accessible content, maybe per lesson, maybe 4 videos that are 3 to 4 minutes long. And then you can opt in for certification if you want to do the little quiz, but then you can get certified with Google as well. So those are some of the tips and tools that you might find useful as you begin to develop or plan your content and create it. So,
Deirdre, thank you very much. That was a great foundation vis-a-vis defining strategy. And as Deirdre alluded to, we're going to be building on this over the coming months. And my colleague Joanna is going to be spearheading a bootcamp e-commerce academy, which we will be leading up to and launching before Christmas. But this is all part of it. This is all part of the foundation. We're here to support you in this area as best we can over the coming 6 to 8 months, because it's vitally important. I'm going to hand over to Deirdre to answer the questions. As you can see them. Can you see them there, Deirdre? In the
yes, yeah.
Q&A and the chat box, I both open. And for Dan, yes, Dan, the slide presentations will be available, and I'm sending a number of them out to people from recent webinars. So all of those are available to you, and I'm going to try and get this recording up as quickly as I can. I'm going to try and get it up for everyone this evening. Okay, so do you want to blast away there?
Sure, yeah, just as regards the portable network graphic, you can get it probably from your designer. It's a specific file type that's exported from Adobe Illustrator, but if it's your logo design, you can export that with a transparent background, and it just means that you can pop it in on any graphic and brand your content then. So printers should be able to get it to you, or whoever your designer was should be able to get it to you, or should have provided it to you as part of the artwork. PNG, it's very useful to have one though, particularly for any graphic generation and video production, because you can just superimpose it as branding on most of the apps anyway that you'd use. So very useful to have that.
So are you spotting them all, Deirdre? Can you see them there? Questions?
At the moment, I can only see 2.
Okay, you got both of them, did you?
Yeah.
You've seen both of them. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question about time and cost.
Sure, yeah.
You just keep bringing your specific questions in. should this be, I mean, it should be integral from the beginning, but could you quantify how much time, say a business with sales of, say, €50,000, okay?
Yeah.
How much of my working week should I be dedicating to this, and how much of my budget should I be spending? I'm just taking that figure as a sales figure, an example.
What I've come across, really, it does depend on, first of all, what your goals are and your particular situation. So lots of recommended schedules and time investment can be a little unrealistic. So I have a sample, actually, social schedule that we can send out. We can make that resource available, but it's maybe 10 hours a week that you're investing on social. But what I would say is, it doesn't have to be massively complicated. I would pick the channel. First of all, you want to emphasize, where are my targets? Marketing is about getting the right message to the right person at the right time. So I think first and foremost about what's the most effective channel for me to use to communicate with people, and then devise my strategy around communicating effectively in that space. You don't have to be present on every channel. So as I said, quality over quantity. But I would try to implement, I mean, that's how I approach it. I will capture content that is useful throughout the week as I do various activities, and then I will sit down for maybe a half day. So definitely you want to ring fence 2 to 3 hours to sit down and just give it focus. And I find if it's even writing content or creating graphics, that you kind of get into a flow, you know, as you start to write, you just get into, you get into that space whereby it comes easier. So I might write maybe 2 or 3 blog posts in one sitting, and then you can schedule those out. And then a way that I might disseminate that then across my social media channel would be pick out key points in that post, generate a graphic around that, and share that on social, inviting people. Actually, this is part of our blog post this month. Click through to the website to find more. And as they click through, then you would be hoping that they'd investigate, have a look around, see what's there, and kind of a research online as such. But again, because very often you would hear the expression research online, purchase offline. So I would go onto someone's website, have a look around to see what they have, and then go into the store to actually see the product in real life and buy it. Whereas now we don't have that option. So you want to give customers everything that they need in that moment to click the button and make the purchase.
Okay.
So I definitely say 3 hours just to answer it. Definitely 3 hours, but yeah.
So just quickly going on that, and everybody out there listening to me, I hope you agree. I find on average that craftspeople are in design, production, and marketing and sales for about 55 to 60 hours a week. So I'm going to take a moderate craftsperson who's probably doing about 50. So that's about 20% of their time. Should they? Be? Okay.
What the IED or the Irish Domain Registry, particularly around e-commerce and web development, they would say 5% of your turnover should be reinvested in marketing. So, and that's just a ballpark. Yeah. But again, you want to make it goal orientated. So you want to get a return on your investment. If you're going to invest it, you want to make sure, actually, can I assess the real value that I'm going to get from this? So if you increase your website traffic by 10,000 visitors, what's that worth to you? And again, it is all driving brand awareness and driving people from awareness to consideration to purchase. Exactly. But statistically, the more people you get to your website, and again, I would say higher traffic, higher quality traffic, the more people you get to your website, the more successful your e-commerce shop is going to be.
Yes, because way over 50% should be spent in marketing, but it's an awful lot with all the design and production. Give an empathy for this work that's going on as well. So I mean, that definitely has to be taken into consideration, and it will pay off in the long run. We have a question coming in. Do you spot that one from Rachel Quinn there? If you just see under Dan's.
Yes. Does listing product for sale at the top of your Facebook work well? Yeah, it can do. Now, depending on what e-commerce platform you have, you can actually integrate or import your entire catalog so that it's available on your Facebook business page. And then when a customer clicks, they'll be taken to checkout on your website. So definitely make sure that you avail of that. You can pin a post to the top, and I will also, depending on what you'd like to, it's kind of like highlighting it. You can do a shop now whereby you can take people directly to your catalog. And again, it is a good idea because it's just giving another kind of a call to action as such, that you're asking them to take action. And again, if I see a shop now button, I do click on it just to see what's on offer. So it is definitely a very good idea. But if you value queries and people contacting you, potentially you will you'll maybe change that button. In reality, it may change a number of times depending on the activity or what you might have going on at the time, but definitely a really good idea to include that there.
Okay, I think you've got the questions there, haven't you, Deirdre? I think you've covered them all. Okay, look, did you spot this one? For Craftwork promotion, do you see that? Which platform would be best? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. That's a very difficult.
It is, but now craft promotion, it's very visual, so you want to go with the more visual channels. Twitter is a little bit more conversational. It's people making very neat little statements or comments. A lot of journalism, people get their news in that platform. But what I would say is have a look at who your target markets are. So are they, now again, women are the gatekeepers of the home, so they are the people who make the choice on the purchase. You know, they hold the purse strings as such. So potentially define your targets really well, and then actually have a look at what platform statistically those people are on. So again, Instagram is a no-brainer to me because it's very visual, like in broad terms, but you do want to investigate and explore. I definitely start Instagram and Facebook because they're owned by the same company. You can do your promotion, you can cross-post on both if you want to do that, and you can have your advertising that serves to both audiences. Really, really specific targeting available there for advertising as well. So if you're visual, that would be the natural space that I would step to. But you do want to have a think about, actually, are my targets men? And if they are, potentially Twitter might be a more lucrative ground for you to approach or try to target your people there. So you're thinking probably first and foremost, who am I trying to reach, and where are they, and how can I get them there? So those are the questions that you need to answer.
Okay, this is a very interesting one here, and we'll be picking up on this in one of the later sessions. Starting out, does a platform like Etsy help get you going, or would you also suggest having your own website and shop ads running now? What I would say is we're looking at this very carefully. Yeah. Our board and the commercialization committee of the board is very interesting on this, and we're following up on it, and we're going to look at a variety of platforms. But I'm going to hand it over to you, Deirdre, as an initial answer to the question. The
Etsy is a good space for quick and easy. I will say it's a very competitive space. It would depend on the price point that your products are at as well. It's definitely something you might think about to get started, but I would always advise on building your own platform that you have full control over. Etsy take 3.5% at checkout, which is a nice little percentage. So you want to assess actually how easy is it, what's the likelihood that I'll convert there, and actually is it worth the 3.5%. Other platforms that are just as easy to get set up on in a quick and easy way would be like Squarespace and Shopify, and they're definitely worth considering as well. Really, really strong e-commerce tools integrated. Lovely. I love Squarespace from an aesthetic point of view, beautiful design and functionality, etc. So you want to weigh up exactly what you need and then weigh up your costs against that. But if you're investing time developing a product catalog, you can put that up on Etsy to get started really quickly. But I would definitely recommend working on your own website and building it on the appropriate platform. But again, as Emer said, we're going to have a look at the various platforms we have available and do a little compare and contrast.
There was a controversial one thrown into the mix a number of months ago by one of our speakers, who was saying that if you're aiming for a global market and you're aiming at a certain level and niche, with all of the things you're doing, does one get to a stage eventually where you can look at your craft and design enterprise and say, okay, am I better strategy-wise paying X amount percentage to these platforms to kind of host my product? So I mean, that's another day's work, but it's definitely worth developing a strategy yourself, isn't it?
Yes, and you also need to explore actually who else offers something similar to what I do, and is in that space too. So you're definitely in an Etsy scenario, you're taking a very careful look at competitors. Price-wise, it's a very competitive space. So you want to make sure actually, yes, I have a wider audience, but if I'm completely lost in the noise, how do I stand out there? You have the potential for sure, but how do you make it work for you? And again, your strategy would feed into that in a big way.
Okay, Deirdre, you come from a very technical background. So here's one here. Why can we not post from computer for Instagram?
Yeah, it's really annoying, isn't it? Yeah. It's just it was Insta. They wanted to be instant. So the whole thing was mobile first. So you take a snap and that was it. Now it may change, who knows what Facebook will do when given enough time, but unfortunately you can't post on Instagram, but that is quite useful. Your scheduling tool will be very useful to combat or circumvent that issue. So if for the likes of Hootsuite, you have content on your PC and you want to put it on your Instagram, just link the Instagram channel to your Hootsuite and you can schedule it out, I think in 5-minute increments, but whatever time throughout the day. But I don't have any technical insight to give you apart from that, except for, unfortunately, that's the reality. Yeah.
Okay, do you see the other answer coming in there from Mary Burke? You can now post through FB Creator Studio on laptop to Insta.
Oh yes, yeah. And again, you can schedule from there too. So yeah, very useful. But it's still through the Facebook framework. So yeah. But it works just as well actually. And again, if you don't want to take on another tool like Hootsuite, Creator Studio is great because you can schedule across both.
Okay, here's we've one in. Did you see that one? It's a very interesting one there. Is there any point at which you would consider that a business is too small to have a website?
Again, it depends on what your goals are. If you want to sell online, I would build a website to do that. There are ways that you can do it very quickly, whereby you can integrate a PayPal button to just receive payment. I did that last week for a personal trainer who wanted to start delivering classes online and had no way to receive payment. So we just set up a PayPal button and people could click and pay to that account. So there are definitely ways that you can work around it. Basically on PayPal, you can code a button and set a price point to it and then include that in an email, even if you wanted to. So, but I would say if you were looking to sell products, then that's what your goal is. And if you set up a space online, it gives you an opportunity to do that. If you think about renting a space, like building an e-commerce website, we'll say is going to take the guts of 3,000. If you think of the trading online voucher available with the local enterprise office, the upper limit for the revised scheme is 2,770. So if that's your budget, if you think about renting a space, you might spend that quite quickly on rental. But if you build a website, that space is going to be there for you, and it's going to, once you communicate effectively, drive awareness and drive consideration, that's going to pay off consistently over time. So just weigh up what it is that you have and what your needs are, and make the decision. But there are definitely quick ways that you can start receiving payment, etc. Online. So you have a number of options available, and we may maybe cover that, just touch on that in that upcoming webinar if we talk about the various platforms, just other ways that you can potentially start e-commerce.
That's great. That's absolutely brilliant. And as Dan Taylor was saying, time's of the essence. So these webinars are really pertinent and getting the information to you as soon as we can, which is great. Yeah. So I think we've touched on everything we need to touch on for today, and I'm absolutely delighted to be able to introduce Joanna to everyone. It was a pleasure. Deirdre, it was really wonderful having you here.
Great.
And our audience, all of you, thank you so much. So until the next time, we'll leave it at
Thanks
that.
very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thanks.